The head of the Environmental Protection Agency is a guy named Scott Pruitt, and he's been under heavy criticism for being a tool of the energy companies. Well, now we have another reason to question his credentials. Look at his comments on a radio show from the 2000s about evolution.
I think the basis of humanism is evolution, and there aren't sufficient scientific facts to establish the theory of evolution, and it deals with the origins of man, which is more philosophical from a philosophical standpoint than a scientific standpoint. So I believe that there is great establishment concerns in that situation.
This guy is the head of an agency that's supposed to put science front and center. Now, we already knew he doesn't believe in climate science. We already knew that. And by the way, he's taken $350,000 from energy companies, which may be one of the biggest reasons why he doesn't believe in climate science. So he's bought by the industry. He pretends like... He actually said one time CO2 is not a major contributor to climate change, to the greenhouse gas effect. He has no idea what he's talking about. He believes in this conspiracy of big science where, these greedy scientists are fighting for grant money. And since they're fighting for grant money, they're pretending climate change is real. To the point where he banned scientists who have ever gotten a government grant from being on the EPA advisory panel, which makes scientific decisions. He banned fucking scientists from a science panel. So he's already lost and too far gone and a massive idiot, and he's massively corrupt and all that stuff. But now he questions evolution. He said, quote, "There aren't sufficient scientific facts." What the fuck are you babbling about, son? This is a guy who sounds like he was indoctrinated with propaganda on young earth creationism from when he was a kid. That's what it sounds like. He's using the same kind of nonsense talking points that those people use. And how do you even respond to this? I mean, this is like the least qualified guy in America who's the head of the EPA. I would rather pick a random person walking the street in New York City. Say, you, buddy, okay, you're the head of the EPA. They would do a much better job than this guy. So this is unconscionable, man. And, it's the year's 2018. Okay? If you're at the point where you don't know about evolution, you simply haven't read about evolution. You haven't learned about evolution. You haven't thought about evolution for a few seconds. You're working backwards from your conclusion that evolution must be false. There aren't sufficient scientific facts. On what planet are there not sufficient scientific facts? Of course there are. He's basically using a weird God of the Gaps argument there. Well, there are some things in the fossil record that we don't perfectly have, therefore, throw out all the plethora of evidence, throw all that out, and let's say God. And then he also talks about the origin of man. Whoa. Evolution does not deal with that. That's something called abiogenesis, which is a different scientific conversation. But he conflates the two things, and again, the idea is just fill in the gap there with God. And if you're not reasonable enough, rational enough, logical enough to go, you know what? It is objectively true that evolution happened. Then you have no business being the head of the EPA. And you wonder why. They're doing massive deregulation now, and businesses are allowed to dump toxic chemicals much more than they used to be able to, and there's toxic coal ash in the waterways in West Virginia, and they're looking the other way when that happens, and there's fewer lawsuits and fewer fines against polluters. If you're wondering why that's the case, well, this is why that's the case. Because you have a guy who's corrupt and bought by the industry, and he also doesn't know anything at all about science, to the point where he's even denying evolution. Listen, if you're a religious person, okay, and you believe in God, I don't agree with you, but that's fine. You can have a belief in God or not and still acknowledge evolution. Even fucking Pat Robertson believes in evolution. Even Pat Robertson. Mr. Televangelist himself. He's been on TV since 1906 talking about Jesus and God and the Bible. Even that guy believes in evolution. But you, Scott Pruitt, nope, he doesn't. Fire this fucking guy, man. He can't do this job. He can't do this job, and it's beyond obvious.